Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Welcome to Atomo. It is Monday, April 3, 2023. Oil. Hey, here comes our big buddy oil back again. We had a lot of talk about banks blowing up, Jerome Powell doing this, nuts and sluts versus Jamie Dimon. That stuff's still in play. But with oil, now we have the OPEC countries today mentioning that they're reducing production. Well, this is interesting. Okay, well, why might they be reducing production at this time? Um, so if we go back to, let's say the Ukraine war. Um, Once the Ukraine war started and all the embargoes began, or sanctions to Russia, there is, I go back in the video where I talk about the walled garden of Europe. And wasn't me saying the walled garden. It's one of those Euro trash technocrats talking about how everything else is a jungle and Europe is a walled garden. And well, because the walled garden, when the keepers of the walled garden ask for something, they shall receive. They're getting a slap across the face with the big no that is coming up. So here we have the OPEC, now OPEC Plus, with so many new members coming in, the move to especially the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia pivoting towards the Global South or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the settlement of oil in yuan now. So now we're seeing a change in prices. I'll share something that I have here, investing.com. Let's bring this one up. So here I have brought up an investing.com chart and taking a look at some of these monthly moves in oil. And you see there's definitely some price action going on here back in the past. And notice how the price action has momentum to it in terms of, well, these bars have some length to them until suddenly you get to this area here, and you notice how you don't have the fat candlesticks, you have a bit of the wicks that are coming up. We got price motion. Wow, really big attempt to do some price motion, but didn't quite get that far. But the trend still continued, and then we got a reversal. So we're back in June of last year. Looks like prices going up, and all of a sudden we have this reversal. There's actions happening in the market, even though oil was getting closed off from Russia. That there's some price activity to the downside here. And we know that Biden was selling out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserves and looking to replenish that. So as the price was going up, selling it out sounded like, hey, we'll sell high and buy low. What a great idea. Um, then things looked like we might be going down, and then there was a reverse. Well, can't have that one bar reversal, and then a reversal on that one bar reversal. But now you notice that, well, there's this push to bring the price down through these. You can see it's touching these lower points, but didn't stay there. Got bumped back up. So we're hovering, trying to get down to the 70s, maybe down into the 60s. It's meeting some sort of odd resistance here, and it's starting to trade sideways. That tells you that something is up. So in the zone here, that it looks like there's forces at play that potentially, allegedly, are not exactly market operating forces. There's something else potentially that's going on here. Because we know that Biden wants to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserves probably at 60 or lower. Yellen has been playing a bit with trying to get that to happen. But as this is happening, we've had cuts in the price of oil. Now all of a sudden, pop, here we are. We got a little bit of a close higher. So let's keep an eye on this. The expectation is we might be returning back to the $100 barrel range, and this sets up a whole slew of happenings that are going on. So with the war, and I'll stop this share, and just what I wanted to leave you with is there's some sideways action going on. It looks like there's some pressure to move the oil price down, but that pressure is just not sticking. So there's other factors at play, especially again, uh, reducing the production from OPEC outputs definitely can start to shift that. And the other thing is, in this environment where you see that sort of this kind of price instability, then that has an impact on the people who actually want to invest that, especially if you're investing using a lot of margin type assets. I'm more of a macro level person, so if you want the absolute technical details, I can't quite get into that. I just look at the macro and kind of sniff out the patterns that are happening, and you can see that with that types of trading that are going on, if you had the usual market conditions of the ups and downs and the futures instead of this kind of sideways with this tight style trading, that can scare away certain investors. Is they want to know that, okay, we're going to be trading the upside, oh, downside's coming, great, they can you know move with decent enough agility. But in the price signals that we're getting right now, it's very difficult. I don't know if it's going to go up or go down. I don't want to be caught in a bad position in having to blow out margins and then liquidate other assets to deal with fluctuations in the oil trade, and they can't figure out where it's going to go. But you might be getting a tell to move to the upsides now. Again, no financial advice, no legal advice here, and don't think I'm going to get into anything medical here. But it's not financial advice here. I'm just looking at charts and seeing potentially what's going on. Okay, so with the war happening in Ukraine, and with the walled garden of Europe saying, "Oh well, come on, OPEC, give us a bit of a back scratch here. Um, let's let's get production up so we can get those prices down." Europe is very dependent on other people's energy. They've been doing a really bad job at managing their energy at decent prices, and of course, you know, they can't get energy on the cheap, and they don't have ample sources of energy. Um, they're in a very sticky situation, especially to maintain industrial capacity and to keep inflation low. With oil going to the upside, we're going to see a definite move to higher inflation targets or numbers that start to come out on the prints. It's going to take a bit of time, but you see, we're probably not at the limit of you know oil's rise. It's probably going to go much higher. My suspicions is it's going to be when you get Russia, Iran, and China, the Rick of the BRICS, um, moving more in lockstep and saying, you know what, we got a price for we, but not for thee type thing, and they can provide discounts to their folk. I think they're still working on it. I haven't checked to see if the oil's futures infrastructure is set up, but we're seeing here that above it all, Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, is just, I think they just had it with the imperialistic US empire wanting to paint everything in rainbow flags. There's a group in the world that, you know what, we fine, your frivolities are not our frivolities. We're here to do business, to make money. Uh, we don't care what you do in the bedroom, which is essentially what the rainbow flag is talking to you about. They want to do business and are looking for serious people to do that business. They can also understand that the sheer amount of world trade that goes through the area in that Arabian Peninsula is quite extreme. So even if Iran, India, and Saudi Arabia were to get together and want to create a ruffle some feathers with shipping and trading, they can do that. And the USA is very dependent on shipping coming from, and I mentioned in a video before, you have the Americas, which basically sits as a little island, and you got the whole, global glob of landmass, north-south transit corridor, Belt and Road Initiative, where China, Russia, Saudi Peninsula, they don't need to worry about moving stuff on ship. They can do it by land and protect those shipping routes and do the Marco Polo thing and keep that protected, whereas the USA relies in North America, specifically, Australia, New Zealand, require shipping to be moving, and that shipping is very vulnerable. And of course, it costs a lot of energy to move ships around. So that's a big strategic point within this war that's going on. And now we're looking at, well, the potential of making oil investable. We saw Biden restart drilling in Alaska. There was some news articles about that. Well, does take time to ramp up production. We don't have any new petroleum refining capacity, no new plants that I know of in articles that I've been reading. It's, we got the same infrastructure we had since the 70s and 80s. Not much additional capacity has come on, so that means that we have to bring in that additional energy should we need it from other countries, primarily Russia. And it takes a decade, maybe decade and a half to bring a decent capacity back online. Kudos to the Germans to float some LNG terminals, but that's liquefied natural gas. We still need, diesel fuel. And with the strategic petroleum reserves running low, do you think that the USA is going to run a land war somewhere when or a big naval operation somewhere when your strategic petroleum reserves are running low? Get caught up in another war, and next thing you know it, with high oil prices, that war is going to cost you a lot of money. And guess who? Guess who is sitting on the other side of this? That can also influence, the amount of potential funds that go into war. Jerome Powell. Why Jerome Powell? Well, the thought here again is you see the shenanigans that are going on with Trump, love him or hate him. You don't know whether truly are the Democrats going to get the scalp that they always wanted. Do they want to stop Trump from doing whatever he's going to do and rallying the rabble? Or is Trump doing this just to be the first president in history to be thrown in prison? For him, that would be a badge of honor. He'd say, yeah, the greatest president got thrown in prison. He'd go to complete martyrdom for that. And that may wake a lot of people up to what's going on in the United States. I can't see how any normie American who's not far left or far right, let's throw that side on and look at the people who are in the center and have them take a look and say, have them say, what the heck is going on? Like, seriously, what the heck is going on? And as I read through just general Facebook comments, 10 years ago when I would write about this stuff, I'd get the conspiracy theory label thrown at me. Now I see more and more people understanding what money printing is. I was talking about this back a decade and even around the time when quantitative easing first started with the Bernanke, and the Bernanke bears was a video that was going around. It was quite funny talking about the quantitative easing, what the Bernanke is doing, and just talking about we're printing monetary units. This is not going to go well. So we got Powell trying to bring back, make savings great again, so you can put money in the bank and get interest on that money back to vanilla banking. But with some of the banking problems that were going on, then we see the potential of no, you have to stop raising rates. Well, now guess what? If the oil prices go up and then headline inflation, because industrial energy, and I said this before, you need energy to push into your industries. You need the appropriate financing, you need energy coming into your industries. And if those energy input prices are going up high, then what's going to happen is, well, prices are going to have to rise, and we'll get the notional inflation that will keep going up. And as inflation goes up, that gives more incentive to Jerome Powell say, I'm going to keep raising. And the more he raises, the more that he starts to pull that American capital out of the markets, or he starts to make US dollars more investable. They'll want to go to the places where they're going to get yield. He's creating yield. Things like the leveraged loan market, or we're going to now see commercial real estate is another one. Once these commercial real estate loans start to flip over and they have to refinance, and realizing that gone up like 400 basis points since they first had the loan, and rental rates, occupancy rates have gone down since COVID. So the architects of COVID who put this stuff into play, primarily from the European side of the game board, are now seeing kind of a blowback of that, where you can't see all the moves in advance. So with these real estate funds, you have a pension fund, and the pension fund needs, like, we need some actual yield so we can get returns for our pensioners' money. So we're going to put leveraged real estate assets into the bucket and then give it to these pension funds who need yield to pay their people. And just think of what's happening in when it blows up in California's face, because they got so many people on pensions. And if you want to ESG the stuff, well, I can't put oil in these other energy companies into my pension funds. And oil and these energy companies, you can cry that they're dirty or whatnot, but money they produce pretty level, even keel income for the assets that are built. But well, we can't do that, so we'll take those out. And we'll flip them over and have these higher yield real estate packages. Then the real estate starts bombing with the interest rates. And what are these pension funds going to do? We're going to have a pension fund blowout at some point. Retirement pension funds, and here Canada pension fund, which I think has gone completely woke and doing all the ESG stuff. It's going to come back really quick and say, you know what, there's going to be other groups that will come out and say, you know what, we're not going to deal with that ESG stuff. You're going to be able to put good dirty assets into these funds. These dirty assets are actually providing money, and you want energy prices low. Is it going to completely destroy the world doing this? Well, most Western countries have very good environmental protection. Can it always be better? Sure, it can be better. But do we completely cut the head off of energy in the West, thinking that, well, we can have dirtier countries produce it? Well, what happens when China closes down? There's talk about war talk with China. Why if China closes down? We're screwed in the West. How much energy we bring in from them? How much cheap plastic goods? I'm just looking for cheap plastic goods. Yeah, the new mouse that I got here, made in China. Okay, so this stuff has to come from somewhere, and you know. So now you're seeing a change. You can finally, it looks like Saudi Arabia is waking up. We're no longer in the world where it was 1970s and the USA was the bulk of consumerism and needing of energy. Like the USA has had a good run with their energy and living off of good cheap energy. You can see why everybody likes to live in the USA. Good rule of law back then. I don't know, like with stuff happening now, it's ridiculous. Up the we have to keep up the court of public opinion on the nasty stuff that's going on, and with decent laws, good energy, everything's not perfect, but you can look at other countries around the world and say, where else would you like to go? If you're in the USA, where else would you like to go? Would you go Russia? You think you're going to have it better in Russia? Russian people keep coming here to Canada. I talk to them all the time. You think you'd have it better in China? Well, run-of-the-mill Chinese will come here unless you're high up and in the party, and you got access because of either birthright or working hard and worked your way up. Xi Jinping himself. I'm not shilling for the guy. But you listen to his story. Party I think persecuted his family, and then he just didn't lay on his back and cry about it. Worked his butt up and got to the point where now he can run the party. So, that's the type of American dream stuff that, yeah, American dream stuff. China is like, oh yeah, we just kind of reversed the American dream, just painted it red, and here we go. You know, again, everything's not all hunky dory in China. Um, but if you have the way to kind of work hard and strive against the competition and get up there and get rewarded for it. Again, I don't fully know the whole ramifications within China, but it's becoming more and more difficult here in the West to have that. Okay, I'm gonna work really hard and make my way up the ladder, because even like housing, I was talking about that today, and I'm just gonna ramble a bit on here. And I was talking with someone today, and like, yeah, they come from outside of Canada. They didn't come with a whole bunch of money, and they're realizing, yeah, this is a bit of a slog. It's same as their home country. It was a slog if they wanted to live in a city proper. And they said it was comparable to their big city living in the Vancouver region where I live. So, that's some of the things that are going on. But in general, Biden won't be able to refill the SPR, not what he's doing. I'd like to see the debt ceiling get locked in. So if you get the Freedom Caucus within the USA say, no, we're not going to do your debt ceiling thing. Get your fiscal house in order. And then keep shrinking the Eurodollar markets by raising rates. And then the petrodollar by OPEC reducing the amount of product that they're putting onto the market, pushes up that price. And the only thing that potentially we have left, unfortunately, is given whatever these neocons, and I'll use the example of this Trump thing, that are pulling their little stunts. Now you see the amount of political capital that they're burning really hard now to indict a former president and a front runner on all these, haha, punny, trumped up charges. Again, I'm not shilling for Trump as well, but I can take a look at it and say, you know what, this is not the USA that was brought into existence. And if you want USA to remain as a 50-state compact, well, you have Jerome Powell and a group of people that are working very hard at it, with enemies even within the United States that are trying to dissolve the rule of law. And it's only a matter of time now. Who's going to break first? Is Europe going to break apart first, or will the USA break apart first? And if Europe breaks apart, then all the cronyism that's happening, we would hope, will break down with it. Heaven forbid if it goes the other way and the United States starts to break down, then I think that will be a loss for the world. And why am I bringing this up? Well, this oil price play is a bit of, think of a good parent out there saying, you need to get your act in order, or you're kicked out of the basement. You're big people, you know what to do, and we're not going to make it easy for you. You need to learn. And this is a bit what that collective South is doing right now, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and some other in the collective South are sending a signal to the USA, get your act in order. But the USA is acting like uh, a whiny little dog that's going to lash out. Not saying the people in the USA, I'm saying there's a leadership element there. It's acting like this, and this is not good for the world. But there is a checkmate position now that's in play. Um, Between now and 2024, some really big moves need to be played by the Davos installed contingency within, say, Canada is still in play, and the US with the Biden or the Obama the third administration. So keep your eye on the space. Keep Create videos, do what you can to provide this information. Let's get the court of public opinion out there. Uh, the world needs a strong United States, and from your friends up here in Canada, we need a strong United States as well, so we can get rid of our communist style governments. But see you in the next video.